All right. Eric, do you want to start us off, or should I just go ahead and start chatting a little bit about the intent?
I think you can just launch right in, Ted. We don't have a quorum of the Climate Advisory Committee, and it doesn't look like we have any members of the public. It looks like we just have climate action team members.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for being able to join us tonight and carve space out. I know it's been a lot of work. You guys have done really a phenomenal job and probably tired. And so this is the last workshop effort. It is not the last opportunity to provide input though. So it's not like tonight's the end and then you're not going to be able to impact it any further. I'll start with kind of where we go from here, sort of a thing. So following tonight, our next step will be to begin to develop a draft of the plan, which will really have three components that we will be working on. The first component is a kind of a traditional plan document. So, you know, a report type document that is organized by section, just like our sub teams, that will include a little bit of overview information, some greenhouse gas modeling information, and then the strategies and detailed actions that this group's been working really hard to create. And then we'll bookend that with, of course, some front end stuff, you know, introduction, sort of positioning, helping people that have not been involved in this process kind of understand a little bit more about what they're looking at. And then we'll also create what we call an implementation section, which is where we'll have, you know, a handful of recommendations that just sort of are overarching recommendations about how to move forward with this plan in general. So, you know, there's a few actions that don't really fit in any one sector, but they kind of touch all the sectors, like how do we move forward with this thing, sort of a thing. So we're going to be working on creating that draft plan document, and we'll also be creating the second product, which is an implementation matrix. It will look very familiar to you guys because it's actually what the action finder is slowly morphing into. It will be a searchable Excel-based database that will have all of the final actions and strategies organized by sector. And then it's easy to find and collapse. So if you're looking for all priority 1 actions or all actions where the select board is responsible for or whatever, you can easily search through and find that. That matrix is certainly a public document, but what it's really intended for is as a living, breathing tool for implementation. So those folks in the town or commissions or so forth that are involved in implementing, it will be a living document where they can kind of track progress as well as kind of review the actions. It'll also, off to the side, it'll have all of the work that's been done through this team will all be there historically. I mean, so that the content is there. So if there's comments, you know, about, hey, this would be a great thing for so-and-so to partner with us, all of that content will still be available within the document. And the third thing we're going to be creating is a somewhat curated list of potential example policies or ordinances that relate to or could relate to the actions in the plan as it's manifesting. So we keep a database of, you know, whenever we run across interesting, cool, or effective policies or ordinances that relate to climate action, we collect them. And then as groups maybe come up with an idea, if we haven't found one, we'll search around and see if we can find some. And then we curate those and provide those as a resource. And really the intent is we found that if a community is looking to create an ordinance or a policy, you know, one of the very first things community planners do is, well, let's look and see what other policies exist so we can learn from those, see what we like and what we don't like, and start creating that. So our intent is just to give momentum to the community as we move forward. But so what will happen is in the next handful of weeks, we're gonna work really hard to try to pull all that stuff together as rapidly as we can so we can kind of keep on our schedule here. And then we will have a kind of a draft plan kickoff meeting, which will be our next meeting, where we'll just sort of unveil, this is kind of the content. If I can get it to you guys earlier, I will. I can't promise that, only because we've slid just a little bit in the schedule. But that meeting will be an opportunity for us to sort of unveil, this is the plan component, this is how it's put together, this is what you're finding, this is where things are at. Maybe do a super high level review of each section, and or all the sub-teams can break into their sections to begin review. But that evening will begin a review opportunity for this team to be able to review and provide input on all of that content. So tonight is the last sort of workshop-y experience or opportunity, but it's not the last opportunity by any means to put in input or contribute meaningfully to the plan. So that's kind of where we're going after this evening. As far as this evening was concerned, so we had anticipated breaking into sub-teams and just kind of looking at where we are with our attendance. We could still do that if we wish, at least for waste management and local food, or we could sort of brainstorm collaboratively. I will first position what it is that we're looking to do, and then we can do a little, see if there's a preference one way or the other. I think I would have a tendency of trying to do the breakout, but the intent for this evening is to, those action lists that you guys have all gone through are now the slim fast version. So all of your great rating and ranking and reviewing of those actions has really helped to identify some prioritizations. I mean, there begins to be sort of a clearer cutoff in terms of, well, you know, we got a whole bunch of actions that are rating as a 0 or a 1 or a 2, and then here's some actions that are rating as a 4 or 5. You start kind of seeing where the threshold of what we think might be a good fit for the community is. And then in addition to that, you know, we've also, particularly for the mitigation sectors, but in each sector, we've kind of looked at it through the lens of, you know, if there's an action that we think could be particularly effective, but maybe got a lower than threshold ranking, we're still offering it up as a suggested action. So I mean, we flagged that. We've got blue text that says, hey, are you guys sure we don't want this? This could be a good action, sort of a thing. So, but our intent was with this slimmed down action list, each section has anywhere between, I think maybe climate economy's got the smallest with 10 actions, up to buildings and transportation have the largest at maybe 30 or so. Most of them are in the 20 range. Our intent was to go through those tonight and brainstorm about potential advocates or partners. Resources is a way of thinking about it. So once this plan is all done and the community moves into implementation, there are two things that we like to try to define. The first is, who's the responsible entity or party or individual, you know, staff role for each action. If we have thoughts towards that now, that's awesome. We can plug it in, but that's also something that we can, you know, work with town leadership to get filled in as well. But it's also really great to have an identification of potential partners in the community that might be able to help implement. It could be, you know, another agency that we know has a similar program or approach, or a nonprofit entity that we think has some excitement or interest in helping to promote something. It could be frankly local businesses, if we think there are local businesses that really could be strong supporters or play a role, or it could just be that we think, hey, this is something that we really think the individuals or businesses need to step in and really play a role on. But the point of doing this is What we would often suggest is that what we come up with as a team, do not go into the actual plan itself per se, because we're brainstorming here and the intent is to try to help provide support to implementation staff so that they can start thinking about, well, as I'm trying to get this action going, here's already, you know, a few ideas on who I might want to partner to or reach out to have a collaborative meeting with to see if we can kind of put synergy together. So we don't want anybody to feel like we're you know, penciling them in for being required to doing something. We're not trying to obligate people here. We're just trying to identify potentials that then staff working on implementation can have as a starting point. So that's the intent of what we're looking to do. And so as I was saying, our original thought was that we'd break into the small subgroups to brainstorm, particularly, again, if you've got ideas on who should be the lead, that's awesome. But particularly on who are some supporting entities or potential partners in the community. So we can do this a couple ways. One approach is we stay together as a larger group and we just go sector by sector, and rather than talk about individual actions per se, we can kind of peruse the detailed actions for those of us that aren't familiar with different sections. But instead, we could approach it from a global sense. You know, who's working in this space in the community, or what resources do we maybe know of that we can just sort of list generally, and then, you know, we can work to sort of shuffle those into specific actions potentially. Or we can break out to the sub teams. Right now, local food has 4 folks. Waste management has just 2. Waste management has fewer actions too. And I could participate in the waste management section. And transportation, we could just sit off to the side here. So we could give a whirl at doing small group breakouts, do a couple of rounds of those and do the best that we can with a smaller group, or we could hang together. And either approach is fine. I'd like to kind of offer it up to you guys, or Eric, I don't know if you have a suggested preference either.
Well, I want to hear from the whole team, but I guess I would think that the staying as as one group might be quite effective, and it will help us also. You know, I haven't had a chance to look at land use and transportation and other things, or even think about those. So I think it's a nice opportunity for us to do some cross-pollination and work together. And maybe I'd suggest we to sort of keep ourselves on track, you know, set a timer somewhere in the order of 12 to 15 minutes per sector. And if we have time left over, we can maybe come back. But that's my initial thought.
Okay. While we do that, I just put in there a link. This is also on the agenda here, but I just added it. This link will take you to a shared folder that has all of these sort of evolving action lists. So if you guys wanted to pull up, we can start with the first sector, which is buildings. We could just start there and kind of work our way through. As Eric says, take 15 minutes or so. I can do some quick math and figure out what the time is. But if you wanted to, you know, you certainly pull up the one that we're on. But if you also wanted to look ahead at other sections, feel free to do so. So that link is in the chat box. You can just click on that and then select those spreadsheets. And I will go ahead and open up the buildings then and share the screen. All right, let's see if we're in the right spot. Okay, hopefully this one's coming through. Okay, so let me do a quick napkin math here to just figure out how long we got and then set a timer. All right. Okay, it looks like we've got about 17.5 minutes so I'm gonna, for each. And I will set a timer. Alrighty. Okay. So for buildings and energy, we've got our primary strategic goals of reducing community-wide electricity and thermal fuel. We've got an increase net zero buildings within the community, which is an evolving strategy based on the feedback on the actions. We've got achieving 25% residential and 30% commercial thermal fuel switching, which is to take from on-site fossil fuel burning to electrification, for instance, where we're not using fossil fuels. Increasing on-site distributed renewable energy, and improving total municipal building energy efficiency, and achieving 100% municipal building thermal fuel switching to reduce fossil fuel use. That says by 2030, but I think the intent was 2027. And then, yeah, and that's it in terms of the strategies. So I think a global question would be on any of these sort of strategies, if there are potential partners or advocates out there. For instance, in improving community-wide residential, commercial, and industrial building energy efficiency. We're touching school districts, looking to partner to promote building retro commissioning, working with Green Mountain Power and other local partners to establish multi-family energy efficiency audit and upgrade programs, where we're being able to target residential properties to upgrade homes, which is actually a strong, I mean, that's a strong action there.
Wow.
Doing the same thing with retro commissioning or energy efficiency program for businesses, where we're looking to target businesses every year to get them through energy efficiency upgrades, adopting rental housing energy efficiency policy, etc. So I'll, rather than read through all these, I'll just kind of open it up here to see if there's any thoughts that anybody has on potential partners related to energy efficiency.
Well, certainly Efficiency Vermont would be one, because they're already out there. They don't do much commercial or industrial, I don't believe, but they may have their fingers in pies and know who does.
Great.
I would think that some of the local solar companies might have an interest in being involved.
All four of them.
Yeah, there's several, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like four, I think.
Wow.
Excellent. Those are all installer types?
Yes.
They try to present themselves as doing more than that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean that in any disrespectful way.
But see, sometimes they deserve some disrespect. The other organizations which is working really hard is Vital Communities.
I'm sorry?
Vital Communities.
And I wonder how much the Cover organization also is trying to do a lot for low income. Yes.
So the $1 billion question here, and emphasize the word billion. If the infrastructure, first off, the towns are starting to learn how much money they're going to get from the stimulus bill. It's already been passed, and how much of that's going to be targeted by the state if the governor's plan is adopted for improving efficiency of homes, home energy audits. And that appears to be coming down the pipeline. And then the second piece of it is if the stimulus bill passes, a huge chunk of that is for making energy homes more energy efficient and trying to put homes on alternative fuels. And I think everybody's waiting to see, you know, what the first Christmas present looks like. And there's some that's starting to come down the pike, and then of course everybody's, at least many people are holding their breath to see if Congress will do something before summer.
Are there specific, with these kinds of funding, are there specific state agencies or entities that would be the people to pester or focus on?
Well, yeah, there are, but it's not clear yet who's going to raise their hand first.
I think we have a state legislator, Becca White, who would be a great liaison to have communication with her to find out what's happening in the state for how these funds are going to get directed. Besides being our legislator, she also works for one of the major solar companies in the state. Oh, wait, now she works for Efficiency Vermont. Oh. So still, even more so, I think she would be a great resource.
Absolutely. Actually, you know, that could be a great action in and of itself, because I found that when communities have a plan, people are much more willing to listen to, hey, you've got some funding you need. So she could be a great place to start. That's a great idea.
So some money is being put through two rivers, TRORC.
TRORC. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously we want to get them our plan, like for the same reason you're saying, Ted, is, you know, if they're sitting there with our plan, you know, we're going to be on the top of the heap when the money comes down, you know.
Well, it doesn't really work that way with them, but we do have an approved plan with them. They've approved our plan. And the question is, will they, you know, how much money is going to be in the pipeline? But those, if that money comes, that could be a big shift in this community.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How about if we, and not, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I wonder about the Chamber of Commerce, and there may be other business organizations. Oh, there's Businesses for Social Responsibility. There's a Vermont group with that. And those groups might help us with what we can go forward with businesses, commercial
Excellent.
effort.
Excellent.
I don't know how much they're involved in energy efficiency, but they also have their fingers in a lot of pies. Is BALE out of South Royalton, BALE, for building a local economy.
And I got my house weatherized by Sevka. They do the same thing as Cover, but they do provide that to some folks in this area.
It's SEVCA, Ted.
SEVCA.
Yeah.
We're terrible as a state producing acronyms that can be pronounced.
I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it's terrible. I was taught in grad school that the first project was making an acronym that was pronounceable. We actually had a class on this.
Excellent.
This state's flunked it.
So a few others here. HACTC is the Hartford Area Career Technology Center. Basically, it's part of the high school. It's the VOTEC portion of the high school. And they, I think, would be a potential partner in the area of helping turn out people that can do some of the work that needs to be done. And then when we're talking about potential zoning regulation changes, certainly Planning Commission should be listed here, and I'm not sure if they want to be in the potential partners or under primary responsibilities. And obviously, almost everything on this list is going to require some input and some collaboration from the Energy Commission. And then lastly, when we were talking in the last few years about building standards and weatherization and investing money in homes, the conversation comes back around often to how will I recoup that investment? And I think we need to involve realtors and financiers as part of the conversations.
That's a great idea, Eric.
You know, Mascoma Bank might be a first place to approach them, but obviously green appraisals and sort of making sure that, you know, people feel like, hey, I'm going to move out of my house in 7 years, but should I put, you know, am I going to get the money back out of this? So those are two more broad categories. I don't have specifics on those, but I think we just keep them in mind.
Excellent.
In terms of training, I think I don't know for sure how much of a resource this is, but I think the Carpenters Union and Plumbers Union, those groups can apply for grants for training of people in these green industries. I would love to see the technical school be up front, you know, a leader in this, but I've also heard them say that it's hard with their young folks because they're just beginners. And I don't know if that was a conversation that happened through here or if I've heard it elsewhere, but so
who is the tech school? What is the name?
HACTC.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's just associated with the high school. And Laura, that's a legitimate point, and I've spoken with the director of the school, and that's one of their concerns too. But they do run adult programs, and that's
Right.
another potential venue. Is what they told us a couple of years ago was, if you can fill the seats, we'll teach the people. So
right, yeah. Also, VTC and community college.
What was that name again? I'm sorry.
Vermont Technical College, VTC, and Vermont Community College. And I wonder where Dartmouth would fall in the process, if they would have any connection with it. I wonder what other people think about that.
So Dartmouth is an odd duck, because they don't seem to care about the community they're in at all as an institution.
Yeah.
You know, they've got this new energy institute affiliated with the Tuck School and the School of Engineering, their School of Engineering. And it's just not clear to me what that energy program is supposed to do. It's not at all obvious.
Yeah.
I can't really speak for what all they do, but I do know that I work at Simon Pierce, and like they sent students and assigned them a project to come to Simon Pierce a couple of years ago before the COVID thing and help deal with getting it more efficient and warehousing and heating and lighting. And, you know, they did have a group of young people that came for like a few weeks. It was part of their course to make things more efficient, because we use the solar panels and we've got the hydro generator there that's in the river, you know, things like that. So I think on a specific task, not a community in general, they seem to work good. Just a thought.
No, well, even if they just have one class that does that, it could make a difference, you know?
And I'm sorry, which group was that you're referring to?
Dartmouth College.
Oh, it was Dartmouth. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they could still be a partner, but maybe a focused one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now VTC, I think, could be involved in Marriott, just different projects from food.
Going back to Dartmouth, is there a sector that they're known for, or like a a goal that they're already working on that seems like a particular good fit for a zeroed in potential with them?
I think that
No.
you mentioned, Bruce. Huh? Bruce, but you did mention an energy.
Yeah,
aspect.
the people who own Irving Oil and developed this energy institute. And
Right.
they're building a new building for them. And I think they're trying to feel their way through this. Dartmouth has a big oil burning steam plant, which they would love to get rid of. And the 2 or 3 things that they proposed have all fallen flat.
Well, they did do some exploring into thermal, and I think they determined that they can get 20% of their energy from thermal. So there is research happening there. Whether it will wind up being helpful to us, I'm not sure. But another really helpful person is, and you guys are going to help me with this. She owns the energy store in Canaan, New Hampshire. Kim, right? No.
Kim Quirk.
Quirk, yes, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
again, when you start talking engineers, they have a level of expertise that could wind up being a resource for us.
Yeah, it's I think they're called Revision Energy.
Yeah, she got bought by Revision. Yeah.
Yeah, Revision's one of the solar companies.
Yeah.
So in the context of the larger universities, we do have, or the town of Hartford, that is, has a recently established connection with UVM in the context of specific engineering projects. So the Uvm Seed Program, SEED, is a place where if there's specific focused engineering projects that fit well into sort of a 2-semester program, we've got a hookup with them already. In fact, they're just next week finishing a project that I've been working on them with for the year.
Okay. Excellent.
When we get to food, help me remember that there's this school to garden program, and you know, there's a couple different things like that. Local food connections. So
Okay.
when we get there.
All right.
Yeah, throw out
Awesome.
one more thing, and knowing we have to move on, if we're casting that wide up to UVM, there's also the Yestermorrow School in Waitsfield, which is design, build, green energy, a lot of alternative kinds of things. And they often offer courses that, you know, for design and things like that. So they may be a good resource as well. They have a fabulous faculty between architects and contractors, and it's a great marriage for all of those.
Great. So they might be a good sort of communication, education kind of partner.
Yes.
Sort of a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't know if people have experience with this group, but they're called window dressers, and they were out of Maine, and they came here and they did workshops, and they made like a factory setup where people in the community make these storm windows. Yes, they're plastic, but if you are living in a low income situation, it's a way to probably save about 20% on your energy bills. Does anyone else know about that group?
I do not.
I don't know about that group specifically, but I do know of, you know, similar things, doing the magnetic storm windows and things like that to help with efficiency. Energy
Yeah.
efficiency.
Similar,
Cover has that. Yeah.
similar end goal. The unique aspect of window dressers is they do community build workshops.
Right.
And so it's not only the product that you're building connections within the community. So you can get reduced window inserts, interior storm window inserts, they call them, but only at the only if you volunteer, and then volunteering can take any form, like, hey, I'm going to bake a pie for everyone to have while they're building inserts or something like that. So that's
awesome.
It's,
you know,
it's
that
just an alternative to just straight up consumer purchasing.
okay. That sort of approach I've also seen applied to like some solarized programs where you know you get an entity to purchase the panels, but then you kind of community group source the installation. You know, you have a few people that are like actually know what they're doing. The function is, you know, a four person, but you have volunteers that come and sure, you know, it's like Habitat for Humanity, you know, solar for humanity kind of a thing. Along the same lines as what I think I'm hearing with window dressers. So that's a cool opportunity.
And we should probably put Habitat for Humanity down because maybe we can get them to focus on the families that they have. They could feed into a grant and use that with the families they have to make the houses maybe more energy efficient than they would have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to add one more here, and I think it's one that may be overarching. It's VLS, Vermont Law School. They have actually offered assistance when it comes to writing ordinances or writing or changing zoning regulations and things like that. And so and they may be able to help in other areas as well, but they do have another energy school. I forget what it's called. Actually, Molly is part of that. And occasionally they have some funding and they can do projects and they're excited about it and they're right up the road.
Excellent. Okay, that's fantastic. I think that could be a good overarching opportunity there too. Okay, like that. All right, cool. All righty. Well, that's our 17 minutes there. That was quite helpful. Let's pull up transportation and see if we have other names that come to mind for transportation. All righty. So for transportation, hopefully you guys are all tracking with me that you're now seeing the transportation spreadsheet starts with TL1. So the overarching strategies we have there are decrease community-wide vehicle miles traveled by 2% by 2030. Increase average population per developed acre by 5% by 2030, which is actually that's a big lift, but there's potential. Increase battery electric vehicle BEV utilization to 15% of community-wide rolling stock. That should have a date by 2030. I think what we had, which basically goes from 30 vehicles today to 575 or so vehicles.
Wow.
I'd like to be one of those.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're really fun to drive.
I used to be one, but not anymore.
And then TL4, establish viable biodiesel sources to serve community by 2025 and achieve 25% diesel consumption replacement. So whatever diesel we're not getting rid of with other alternatives, let's start migrating it off to biodiesel. And then TL5, achieving 75% conversion of municipal operation gasoline, E10 gasoline vehicles and equipment with municipal fleet to EVs by 2030. This is phrased a little funky. We're gonna have to edit that. And achieve 100% by 2040. Convert all municipal operations diesel fuel utilization to biodiesel by 2027. So whatever we can't switch to EVs in the diesel realm, getting into biodiesel again. And then whatever we can't get converted prior to 2027, offset the difference so that the town is meeting its goal by 2027. So offsets, biodiesel, EV conversion for municipal functions, EV conversions for the community. Oh, that's that one. Increase density of development, which has a range of transportation benefits, walkability, et cetera, and decrease VMT.
There's a group called Locomotion, and they've just done a collaboration with local libraries to make electric bikes available to lend. So
Is it 2 words like that, local motion, or is it?
I think it's one word.
Actually, probably the entity you should put up there is the Upper Valley E-Bike Lending Library, UVLL, I think it is, Lending Library. So the Locomotion is splitting off from us
Okay.
in the near future. So the Upper Valley E-Bike Lending Library.
Okay. Excellent.
You know, what about if we have as a resource another country that really has achieved a lot of progress in this area? And I'm not sure if I remember, but I think it's Denmark, but it could be others.
Sort of a inspirational, sort of identifying other communities or countries that have really achieved great.
Yeah, yeah. And something we forgot to say the last time, which is like going to go through all of this, is we have an energy coordinator in town. Obviously, that person should be involved, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that person will end up in a primary role on a number of actions.
Right.
So I think when we talk transportation, we have to include TRORC, Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Planning Commission again. So TRORC. And VTrans.
Right.
And Green Mountain Power. Because why wouldn't Green Mountain Power want everyone using electricity?
Right.
Green Mountain Power is doing a seminar here pretty quick on their future in Vermont.
And circling back to another overarching one, and I think, you know, I missed this in the earlier category of buildings, but transportation and buildings are so big in this. We can't make more aggressive standards for new construction without some support from our neighboring communities, because otherwise there's just spillover. We lose. So the way I put it is for transportation and buildings in at least the 4 core towns. So 4 core is Lebanon, Hanover, Norwich. And that's 4 as in the number. And then of course Hartford.
Yes.
But we know that.
Okay. Oops. Excellent.
As far as that density goal that we looked up above, you know, clearly the Planning Commission is going to have to play a big role in that, I would assume.
You know, we've tried really hard to do this, and it's going to take money.
That's good to know too.
You know, and I can't talk out of school, so I have to be good. So I'll shut up.
When you say, and maybe this is pushing you into being naughty, I don't mean to, but when you say it's going to take money, what do you think that means? I mean, for what? And has anybody talked about volumes? What does that mean?
So we need some money for new design standards. We need better design standards for this town. Because we don't have standards on those things.
Okay.
We need seed money that would allow the community to buy empty lots and build infill housing. I mean, if you're going to increase density, you have to do infill housing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. We need a way for people who want to put on accessory apartments
Yeah,
get good designs.
right. And to have that in the zoning, you know,
By law, by Vermont law, accessory apartments are allowed.
so I could put a, oh, what do you call those little houses on my property?
There, there are strict rules about what, under Vermont law, not just Hartford zoning rules. There are strict rules on what an accessory apartment has to look like. And you can find those, if you Google on the Vermont government website, you'll see the rules.
Okay.
But people need good designs. And it's just, and then as it said in the Valley News this week, our local newspaper, you can't find a carpenter for anything.
Yeah.
Are there any local design schools that you think could be a partner in solving some of that? You know, helping to create design standards, or maybe even being like doing a community design effort to come up with like a few models that people could start choosing from?
I would
Yes,
throw
Vermont.
out the Yestermorrow School again.
Right.
Yestermorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right up their alley, especially tiny homes and different kinds of apartments, small buildings.
Okay, excellent. Is there, how about an architectural school, like does the state University of Vermont, or who is there an architecture school in the state? There must be.
Well, so VTC has a construction and design program, which has an architectural component. And which has a good, I don't know if it still does, had a good reputation. And that's, I don't know if UVM, I've never looked to see if UVM has a School of Architecture. It may not.
I don't think it does.
How about just stirring the pot a little bit? How about with EVs? Is there anybody else that we haven't mentioned that comes to mind with you that's already working on this? Or are there local car dealers that are illustrating a clear interest in being leaders, or you think might be amenable?
Vermont Law School did a workshop on EVs, and they just have a really great presentation that I think could become available more widespread. And Molly was the one that put it on, by the way.
Excellent.
And the Upper Valley has a group that they didn't do it this year during the pandemic, but they had a EV car show, and I'm sure Eric can tell us about that.
And when we say Upper Valley, is that their name? Is there a more official name? Is it just Upper Valley?
Well, I'm thinking Eric knows what the group is.
Eric's drawing a blank. If you wait, I can go get the T-shirt. I volunteered the year before last, and I got a T-shirt, but I can't remember the name for the life of me right now.
Okay.
But everybody will know. Everybody will know.
The 4 solar companies are pushing this pretty hard.
The battery vehicles?
Yeah.
EVs?
Yep.
And Green Mountain Power gives a free charger, home charger. And it might be nice if some of that funding could be used, because they give you a free charger, but you have to pay. Well, I had a friend who put mine in, but you have to pay an electrician to install it. So that could be a good piggyback.
I just realized we're missing all of the partners in the public transit space. There's Stagecoach, and there's Advanced Transit.
Right.
And there's, I'm sure you all can think of some more, but that's I think an element of this as well. It's not, maybe there's not a specific goal. Well, there is when you talk about VMT, I guess, that it's tied into there.
So Stagecoach, and I'm sorry, what was the other one that you mentioned?
Advanced Transit.
Eric. This is Matt. I just want you guys to know that I'm on the Advanced Transit Board, and I have been for quite a while. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And I think they've been real active at being electric vehicles. Correct?
And I have a suggestion for something that you might not think of, but I think we should involve the senior center so we can get their van to be electric powered, because I think it would have a lot of visibility, and you know, all those seniors will talk to their families about it. And I don't know. There's probably other high visibility groups that if we can get them to change to electric, it might
Schools?
promote. Yes, very good. School district.
Excellent.
And there's not a whole lot of stations to recharge, correct? I mean, I think King
No.
Arthur Flower has some, and so we could be thinking about, you know, where they should be placed, what places could support that.
So
And we need level, I forget what it's called. I think it's called level 3. The high speed charging is really important.
Yeah, level 2s are good for like if somebody's going to be there for a while, or a DC fast charger, a DCFC, where you can get it done in an hour. That's important for people that are traveling in.
Right.
So supposedly those are two of the big components in both the stimulus bill, the first stimulus bill, and the infrastructure bill, is building more of those facilities. Volkswagen's going to put up 18,000 in their core market in Europe.
Hmm.
And everybody, some people are holding their breath that GM, Ford, Toyota, Nissan, et cetera, will commit to a larger number for that in the United States.
I think we might consider reaching out to one group that I know of. I think it's called RSG. They're by the old River Road, and they're a trucking company. So I wonder whether communicating with companies like that, I mean, we have goals for switching from regular diesel to biodiesel. We should work with them in the process of doing that. Or is that just meant for town vehicles?
Well, there's one specific action for the town fleet, but you're totally right. I mean, being able to partner with other local companies that have vehicle fleets, you know, and actually one way of being able to do that would be, you know, one of the actions is to execute basically a transition plan. I mean, you can do an EV suitability assessment, which helps you identify what vehicles can we transition right now where the use case is perfect. Which ones might we want to transition in a couple of years based on vehicles that are expected, that sort of thing. And you can do that with good telemetry data. So you hook up the cars with monitors. Once you do that, I mean, you can get a couple people certified on how to do that. The town could decide to offer that as a free support, or at least discounted support to some of these companies, you know, help them monitor and figure out which ones they can convert and start saving money, because that's really what helps them get it, you know, when they can see that they can save money.
Yeah.
I was wondering, somebody mentioned a bunch of car brands. There's several car dealerships. Could they be convinced to contribute to a network of chargers or something?
Just promoting them, you know, buying local ads for electric vehicles.
Are we back on the building spreadsheet?
I thought it was, oh. Yeah, perhaps.
I'm also stuck. I was stuck on muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't realize we were. I clicked on a button and it took me off the spreadsheet entirely.
Wow,
Okay.
Eric, you deserve Eagle Eye Award.
Yeah, that is. Are there, as far as local car dealers, are there any that are selling EVs? Do you have a Tesla dealer or a
We have
Nissan dealer?
Toyota.
And
Okay.
Chevy.
Do they have Toyota must, I mean, and Prius does really well for them everywhere. Does the Chevy, are they pushing their Bolt and Volt cars?
I don't know, they're new. I bought my Bolt from Montpelier, but
Okay.
I don't know how, I don't see a lot of media, so I don't know.
Okay.
There's a Subaru dealer there as well. A Subaru dealer.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, I think we're nearing our end for our transportation run. Is there any other groups, any like for biodiesel sources exploring? So with biodiesel, there's really two aspects. One is try to secure a supply chain. You know, where's the source, and if we can find ways of closing a loop, so we're using local waste somehow to create a biodiesel, and waste can be any sort of thing, but you know, we're creating our own source if at all possible. So exploring that in a study, but also there is, you know, there's dealers. I mean, I'm buying diesel from somebody, you know, and kind of potentially working with them to explore what might they be able to do to increase their supply chain.
I think
Or
Dan and Witz sells biodiesel. At least they used to.
can you spell that, please?
Dan and Witz, A-N-D.
Well, they're
Dan.
a retailer,
Oh.
right? So they're retailing biodiesel. Is that what you mean?
WHITS.
Thank you. Okay.
Are you looking for distributors or retailers?
Could be either. I mean, really, the ones that are probably most useful are the folks that can sell the local fleets that are using diesel and are gonna be using diesel for a while, that can make sure that they start migrating their fuels to a biosource. So retailers, really.
Maybe we need an education program that would teach farmers how to, you know, transition their crop to a biodiesel potential. You know, help them look at what the financial benefits would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is there anybody at a state level or at a university level that's doing, because that often there is, you know, like university extension programs, or you know, a state university that it specializes in alternative fuel research or something like that, that might be a happy partner in that.
I'm not sure if the UVM extension, which does have an agricultural school, I'm not sure if they get into that. I mean, and the reason might be is because of the topography here. The geography is suited towards small farms, not big monoculture type that you might see out in your neck of the woods or to the south of you.
Okay. I was going to look up cattle counts. Do you guys have a lot of dairy cattle in your part of the state? Also, dairy and beef?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Okay.
No, certainly not by California standards.
How about like in compared to some of the other counties in the state? Are you guys kind of?
Addison County is really where the agriculture is happening in the state.
Okay.
There are some larger farms elsewhere, but
Okay.
Hartford is, with a few exceptions, doesn't have a huge agricultural footprint.
Okay.
And certainly doesn't in dairy.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else that? Oh, go ahead.
I have no idea whether there's a connection between biodiesel and biomass, but I know that Dartmouth was looking into biomass and did lots of research on all sorts of various energy situations. So, I mean, I think they decided biomass was not the way to go, but they were looking into it for a long time. And I know it's across the border, but
There's Vermont Technical College has biomass to biofuels. They're working on a bioenergy initiative. I just looked it up. That's how I know.
Excellent.
That's a good call, Mary, because they, years ago, they were experimenting with a anaerobic digester as well, so.
Did you say that was a biomass initiative?
Biomass to bioenergy. And that's Vermont Technical, VTC.
Excellent. All right. Okay. So we can, unless there's anything else rattling around in our ideas, we can go on to the next group.
I just wanted to mention, I think when you were on the buildings one, there was like a whole panel, not just the last sentence, that it was supposed to be in transportation. Yeah, I think that whole thing was supposed to. Or
Let's see.
maybe the beginning part with the yestermorrow.
Yeah, I think the tomorrow, what they were brought up in both building and
Okay.
and transportation.
Okay.
Yeah, I
never
think
mind
that's
then.
it looked like it, but I do think that this one actually belongs there.
Okay.
I'm gonna, having learned my lesson, I'm gonna actually close the file. And I will actually close the transportation file so I don't accidentally mess that up. All right, so we can try, anybody want to pick the next one? Waste, water, food, green space, health, economy. Anybody got a favorite they want to hit? Otherwise, we'll just do waste.
There we go.
All right. All righty. So, so in waste, the higher level strategic goals achieve 100% organics landfill waste diversion by yesterday. 2, increase recycling from 5% to 15% of total solid waste handled by 2030. Decrease total per capita solid waste handled by 5%. We're just generating less junk altogether. And those are the 3.
Wow.
Well, there is at least one group that's doing compost collection, and others can say whether they know of more than one. And maybe we have to look at whether a grant would help them develop more staffing or more whatever they use to, like if they need a truck, or you know what I'm saying, to
Yeah.
expand their business.
And who is that that's doing compost collection now?
Hmm.
There is a woman out of White River Junction. She has Sun Something Farm. She's down on Route 5 south of the VA hospital. And
Sunrise.
Sunrise Farm, thank you. Yep, and she's doing, at least in Wilder, and she's expanded to about 100 customers now. I know it happens so fast. You know, you talked about grants, Laura. She was trying to find enough resources to get the correct ratios, as well as a large enough area to put it in. So, you know, it's not just a truck, it's helping them create their facilities too as it expands.
Yeah.
I think the operation, it might be a collaboration with Sunrise, and it might be on their property, but I think it's, all right, at least when it started, it was called like willow tree composting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent. How about from recycling? Anybody doing interesting stuff in recycling space? Entities looking at high efficiency business models to help them reduce waste through recycling or recapturing waste
So-
stream, that sort of thing?
Lebanon just put out a app that tells people how to recycle properly because a lot of people were not doing it right.
Excellent.
I think one example of what you're looking for, Ted, is cover again. So cover has cover home repair, which was relevant to the building tab, but then there's the cover store, which basically tries to keep things out of the landfill.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And
So
and
is that like general products, or is it construction oriented stuff, or is it like clothing?
They take people's leftover stuff from home projects and sell it.
but they also do furniture.
Right,
Okay.
leftover house stuff.
Yeah.
Houseware.
No, I was thinking house construction stuff. But I also know, from knowing a number of local contractors and the amount of stuff that's going into the landfill because they don't want to take the time to call cover, even though cover will come and pick things up. And so I don't know if there's people out there to collaborate and help either streamline the process for contractors or educate them on the importance of this, because sometimes from a timeline standpoint, they think it's easier just to throw it in the dumpster than to set it by the side of the road and wait for 24 hours for cover to come pick it up or something like that. So I don't know if there are partners that are out there that could help with something like that, but it's distressing to me because like whole kitchen cabinets and things are just getting thrown out.
That's really interesting, Carolyn, because in the realm of food, there's willing hands. And
Right.
almost what you're talking about is a willing hands equivalent for construction materials or.
Yeah, because if cover is the only one, is there a way to help funnel it to cover in a more efficient way? So basically, can we get gleaners for construction material and get it to cover?
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't have the bandwidth for that either. They barely have the bandwidth to keep the store going. So
Right.
there is a gap there that it sounds like.
Yeah. And I forgot what I was going to say.
If we're talking about just keeping things that are still good out of the landfill, which is kind of what we brought up with cover, then listen also.
Right.
Yeah, it's spelled like listen, like listening. Yep.
Great. What is listen? Just so I know.
You can get used furniture and
Clothing.
they have clothing. Yeah.
Sort of a thrift store, but yeah, nonprofit. Like they have lots of other community efforts too.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm wondering if the town needs a policy that when people apply for rehabbing their house, that they have to present a plan for what they're going to do with their construction excess or leftover or whatever.
Yeah, that actually, I mean, especially seeing as how we've got it, if Cover Store is a local partner that has a place to take some of that stuff and a venue for moving it, that you could do some damage by having a policy related to demolition.
Yeah, but if we also got the funding for that liaison person, that would be ideal because it takes the pressure off the homeowner and the contractor, and it makes it so that someone helps get that to happen,
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent.
Kind of a big, broad partner here, possibly when it comes to converting food waste into fuel or other materials, and really just waste in general is, here's another good acronym for us, GovSWID. Greater Upper Valley Solid Waste District.
That's awesome. I like it.
That's a new one for me.
So yeah, if we were going to be pursuing something like how do we divert food and produce biofuels from it or whatever energy from it, that would be the obvious place to start, is at the district level, the waste district level, that is.
Yeah.
And really our Department of Public Works, the Solid Waste District, is a partner here as well in terms of getting information out. So they have this really great sheet on their website about, I forget what it's called, but it's like A through Z of what you can do to keep things out of landfill. And one example is like egg cartons. And they say, well, you can bring them to your, bring them to your local farm, egg farmer or whatever. And expanding that and making people aware of it. So it would be important, would be an element here. So I think that identifying them as a partner is relevant.
Which website is that, Eric?
It's on, if you go to the town website and pull up departments and drill down into Public Works and then Solid Waste District, okay. There's a A to Z disposal, like how you do disposal for everything they can think of, from batteries to oil to egg cartons, and it's actually kind of interesting because I learned a few things on there that I was like,
yeah, I'd really like to see that.
But it's not. It's something that needs to be updated like periodically and expanded and like and made
and maybe not be embedded so deeply that people have to drill down to find something like that. Right.
I think a resource are towns that have banned the plastic bag. Now, do we allow our stores to have plastic bags?
No, it's a state ban.
Oh, sorry. I go to New Hampshire so much, I forget.
How about beyond? Does the state ban include other single-use plastic, or is it bags only?
Pretty sure it's just bags.
Are there any that have implemented single-use plastic bans or opt-out campaigns or anything like that? That might be a good resource.
I wish.
Or are there any towns that have established like zero waste goals or anything like that that are really sort of regional leaders that come to mind?
We might need to be the regional leader.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about whether we could become part of a national organization that's doing that, even if we don't take major steps, just if we, as town staff, get their newsletter, and maybe that will pop up information from there on the website. So they're a resource. I'm sure there's a national group that is made up of towns that have done zero waste.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I'll do a little Googling and see if I can come up with something. Okay. Anything else related to waste management that you think, any other potential partner that you think might be strong?
I don't think we covered anything like this, but aren't we dumping some of our solid waste into the river?
No.
No.
No?
Very against the law.
Okay, I hope that's true.
You might be thinking about municipal or sewage.
Storm drain overflow. Yeah.
Storm drain overflow, right?
No, I'm talking about sewerage.
Yeah. So, but most of that is storm drain overflow, I think that.
Yeah.
No,
there is raw sewage that has occasionally gotten in, like down here at the Kilowatt Parks. But I'm not sure how it's connected, but oftentimes, it comes through the stormwater overflow system.
I see.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunately common when our stormwater overwhelms the system. When we have the combined overflow, you can end up pulling out sewage.
Well, Hartford's made an extraordinary effort to separate the two systems all through town. Millions of dollars have been spent separating them. But the only thing they discharge is an EPA approved fluent. It's pretty much, it's not drinkable, but it's pretty clean. And it meets, one of the reasons we had to upgrade the White River Junction plant and the Queechee plant is to meet the new EPA standards on phosphorus discharge into the Connecticut River, which went into the Long Island Sound.
On other partnerships, I wonder if at some point it's necessary and appropriate to pursue partnerships with the trash haulers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty finite list of those. They actually have to register with the state, so they're easy to find.
Around here, is it just Casellas and Boschines? Or is there somebody else?
Moore's.
Moore's?
Yeah, more waste, yeah.
No, we
I
want
was-
less waste.
Yeah.
I was thinking that we only have one grocery store, the co-op, and I'd mentioned earlier that Hannaford's is part, not putting any of their food waste into landfills now that they started this program up with a company in Maine, and wonder if we can get the co-op to look into that sort of thing.
Well, the co-op has an extensive program not to put anything into landfills. I don't know how successful it is. But they
What's the
help.
name of the co-op again? I'm sorry.
It's called the
That's it.
co-op.
Go to co-op.
Well,
It's just co-op.
there's Upper Valley Food Co-op, and there's also the quote unquote Hanover Co-op that's in White River Junction.
And that's called the co-op food store.
Oh, right, yes. The co-op food store.
But the co-op food store has an
They're
extensive
talking
partnership with
about it
Helping
right now.
Hands to make sure that all excess food is properly disposed.
Right, but Hannaford's does the same thing, but did you read the article that was on the paper the other day?
Yeah.
That there's still food waste that can't go to other people and ends up in a landfill. And this company in Maine has a machine that will open up the product, take out the food waste, and use that for an anaerobic process to make fuel. So the issue is having a machine that would open up the product and get the food out. So I don't know if the co-op's doing that or what.
And I've heard Helping Hands mentioned a couple times. Is Helping Hands involved in food waste?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Willing Hands, I believe.
Yeah, Willing Hands, yep.
What does Willing Hands do?
They do gleaning from fields, and then they also do recovery from stores like the co-op food stores, so that so diverting usable food back into the food stream and not into the waste stream. And they've expanded their facility in Norwich. Others may know more about it, but that's my thumbnail sketch.
Yeah,
Excellent.
the focus is on healthy food.
Okay. And then are they focused on low income recipients, helping folks connect with, to reduce food insecurity issues, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Excellent. All righty.
So
Anything else on waste?
Yeah, West Lebanon Feed and Supply, they have a program where you can bring back the pet food bags. They sell a lot of pet food. I'm wondering if that might be through TerraCycle, which has a number of like free small recycling things, and if we could convince businesses that it made sense because they sell that product or whatever, that they could have a TerraCycle return.
Okay, excellent. All right. Time's up for food waste. Learning my lesson, I'm saving it. I'm sorry, that was waste. Now we're on to, actually we should do water next. We'll do water next. It's really slow. Okay. All right. For water, strategy 1 is promoting increased water conservation townwide with a targeted reduction of 6%. 2 is mitigate the projected increased flood hazards and impacts due to climate change. So preparing and reducing those flood impacts. Increasing stormwater and wastewater treatment capacity to meet the newly defined criteria of major storm and climate events. And that's it. So increasing stormwater, wastewater treatment capacity, and kind of making sure we're keeping those separate, especially during, floods and such. Mitigating flood hazards and impacts, and increasing water conservation or decreasing water use. Any potential partners come to mind on any of those folks working with, water conservation efforts, nonprofits, contractors or developers that are, really leaders in terms of water efficiency, or native landscaping, no water sort of landscaping folks that are doing interesting work there.
I think, I don't know if they're doing it or have done it specifically, but I think Vital Communities would probably be interested in partnering on projects around this or education around this. And the other is there are a number of permaculture specialists in the area who should know something about bioswales and capturing rainwater and things like that. And we just have to look up who they are.
Excellent.
Upper
What is
Valley.
Vital? I'm
Oops.
sorry. What is Vital Communities? That's been brought up a couple times, just so I understand who they are.
I would say Vital Communities is a 501(c), which tries to exercise leadership in 60 communities on a number of issues. I think it's
Okay.
60 communities.
Energy, transportation.
Right, all this stuff, really.
Yeah, they sponsor workshops, they bring in speakers, they do a lot of education pieces.
They
Okay.
accept grants.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so it sounds like they run programs too. Maybe they get a grant for energy efficiency or whatever, and
They've done some programs on energy efficiency and climate change.
Okay.
Upper Valley Apple Corps has a few permaculture specialists in that group. And I would think if there are grants available that we could do more, like we're involved with establishing a rain garden at the town hall. And I think there's probably similar kinds of projects that could spin off.
And that was Upper Valley Apple Corps?
Yes,
Okay.
Apple Corps, yeah, separate.
Yeah. I think it's
CO
CORP.
Right.
As opposed to the middle of an apple.
Okay, but it is apple like the fruit?
Yes.
Okay.
Local foresters might know some about the kind of landscaping that would be best for water, what do you call that? Saving or
Yeah, zero scaping,
Diversion as well.
Yeah.
Seems like Resilient Hartford is a logical partner for both water conservation and mitigating flooding. So they're part of they're a body as part of the town government.
town committee.
Okay.
That's a better way of saying it.
How about, is there a local watershed district or watershed authority that's separate from town, country, or state government?
No,
Yeah,
Isn't there's the Connecticut River something or the other.
they're a conservancy organization.
They are a conservancy organization, but they do have a lot of people who are connected to watershed, understanding watershed and water movement and hydrology.
the regional planning commissions in Vermont, they have clean water advisory committees. So that's through the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Commission. And the state, they have like 5 different state watershed planners who participate regionally with our regional planning commissions.
You said it was clean water, state regional clean water? Is that what you said?
Clean water advisory committees, yes.
Okay, excellent.
Matt, do you are you familiar with the Two Rivers Ottaquechee conservation?
Well, it's not the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Conservation. There's the Ottaquechee Conservation District.
Okay, thank you.
So that's through. It's a federal government. It's like through, is it the USDA maybe?
Yeah.
But there's one in White River Junction.
And what types of things do they do? Because I get newsletters from them and they seem to play in this space.
Yeah, you know, certainly conservation is a key thing. I'm trying to think about, you know, some of the issues that they've been working on. I know they deal with invasive plants. I know they deal with, you know, water quality issues.
What's the name of this group?
It's the Ottaquechee, which is the Ottaquechee River. Is it the Resource Conservation District?
Oh,
Would somebody mind helping me spell Ottaquechee? Because I'm not going to be able to do that.
None of us want to admit that we don't know.
Okay.
I think it's with an O. O-T-T-O.
O-T-T-A.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
Q-U-E-C-H-E. Otto.
Another E.
Maybe it is Otto. I don't know.
I can look it up from there, but that'll help me.
It's actually O-T-T-A-U.
O-T-T-A-U.
There you go.
Q-U-E-C-H-E-E.
You got it right.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. So you said they do invasive species.
Yeah, water quality, lots of conservation issues. I'll have to look up I get a newsletter periodically from them.
Okay, excellent. All right, anything else? Anybody can think of any other potential partner, advocate, resource that would be important for the water section?
We want to list another town commission, the Conservation Commission.
They'd like it. They hate being left out.
Well, let's include them then. All right. Okay. So now we can hit food. Actually, I better close this out. Lesson tells us I will mess it up. Okay. So local food, we've got a couple strategic goals here. One is increase production of local food, particularly serving low income and food insecure individuals. We've got increase access to local food. So similar, but one is about like, what can we do to produce more and more of it? Now we're saying, what can we do to make sure pathways exist and we get it in the hands of people that can use it, as well as all of us. Reduce food waste and hunger, achieving a 50% reduction in food insecurity community-wide, which is, that's a big lift. And increase local food agricultural resilience to climate shocks. So, making local producers, farmers become more and more aware of helping get them resources about potential climate change impacts, precipitation changes, things that they should be expecting as they continue their practice, that sort of thing.
We should work with Listen and oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of the homeless shelter.
Haven.
Haven, yeah, to get their input on serving low-income folks. One thing I know when I delivered their food is they put it in styrofoam packages, but that goes back to the waste issue. Anyway, those two groups should be involved if we're going to do planning on increasing production and reaching low-income folks.
And willing hands.
Yeah.
And Vital Communities.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
say Vital Communities is the other one.
they're a vital partner here.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any groups that are doing like community gardens or food forest permaculture sorts of things? Teaching youth how to garden in their backyard, stuff like that. Master gardeners, is it a university master gardener program?
There
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, UVM has that program, extension service.
So,
And then earlier, Laura mentioned Upper Valley Apple Corps.
Right.
It's another partner there.
so this is Matt. So we have a Hartford Garden Club. We have the Queechee Garden Club. So they're pretty active. They do, plant sales, and they spruce up, public spaces around town. We also have our Resilient Hartford group is working on a food forest for a portion of Clifford Park in West Hartford, kind of as a demonstration project with the possibility of doing that at other town parks. So that project is kicking off this summer.
Excellent.
There's a small organization called Upper Valley Seed Savers.
Mhm.
And at the state level, there's an association called NOFA VT, NOFA VT, which is Northeast Organic Farmers Association of Vermont. So when it comes to more commercial scale support for whether it's grants for purchasing land or farms, subsidizing the purchase of a farm, for example, or programs, workshops on how to raise certain vegetables or fruit or whatever, or animals, they provide a tremendous amount of resources to organic farmers in the state.
Excellent.
The organic farmers themselves are a good resource. I know people like Luna Blue Farm, they offer, reduced CSA shares for income sensitive CSA shares. So supporting them somehow too. So Luna Blue is just one of many, but there are a number of small farms that offer CSA shares, and it'd be great to get their input on how best to support them to support income sensitivity.
I wanted to mention Cedar Circle Farm, which is actually a nonprofit now. And they definitely have some connection with NOFA VT because I definitely donated money that will go toward giving a CSA through Cedar Circle to people who can't afford it. And they have lots of education programs, especially for kids.
Excellent. And I just have to do another shout out that NOFAVAT is another awesome acronym. Bruce is right.
I believe it's actually NOFA-VT, but
darn, that makes it a little bit more readable.
yeah.
I wonder if it's Vermont law. No pronounceable acronyms.
Are there any local groups that are, I'm sure there are, but any groups that stand out that are really doing a lot with food insecurity, with sort of, or groups that are really super well connected with low income communities, community members at risk?
Listen has a free community meal every day, except one day a week.
They're already at the top of your list.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's covered, I can't see it, yeah.
My cynical side says there were people at Dartmouth who were sure that there's no such thing as food insecurity in their community.
So, yeah, Ted, I think you also captured that with the Haven earlier to answer your question. But there's also a church downtown. It's the one right next to the village. Is it the Methodist Church? They seem to do a lot in having a food pantry.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's the Methodist.
Okay, thank you.
What about the schools? Some way of getting food to students during the summertime or something like that?
They do a lot, like they have Fridays, kids take home 2 meals for the weekend besides the reduced, lunch. I'm not sure what they were doing in the summer. I kind of forget.
Is that actually local food that they're receiving though? Or is it some company that like brings it in?
I don't know, but we might want to connect with the group that does the canteen services for the school district. I don't remember their name, but they do other school districts locally. And I think they're doing some with local food, but I don't know. I think they'd be important to connect with. The senior center, they have meal program and Meals on Wheels.
Excellent.
UVM Extension Service, maybe they could be involved through their, I think they're the ones that do the, I don't know, maybe not, the Master Gardeners, but it would be interesting to find a way to expand so that we could teach people to do more with growing their own food.
So Cedar Circle Farm is committed to changing to no-till. I feel like that has something to do with agricultural resilience. And there's another new no-till farm that I just heard about in Claremont, New Hampshire.
And we have a lot of experts on soil, they can do soil education.
Kat Buxton.
Yeah. Dee Dee Pursehouse, I think her name is.
Right.
There's others.
It's with eyes. Dee Dee with eyes.
First house, I'm gonna slaughter that.
It's with an E.
Like literally like house, like that. And then
Yeah,
you
there's-
mentioned another one.
Except it's PERS. Yeah, Cat Buxton, cat like a animal cat. And then BUX TON, I think.
Yeah.
So they're sort of like organic soil expert sorts of folks.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, then we should
like-
list Chuck Worcester from Sunrise Farm because he's receiving a lot of that organic waste that we talked about earlier, that willow tree. They're taking it to him out here south on Route 5. And he's, putting it into the soil and growing organic crops.
I'm supposing I spelled Chuck's last name wrong. Do you happen to know how to spell it? Wooster?
Just
Uh,
about-
yeah.
Yeah.
WOOSTER, I believe.
Great, thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Any other local food compatriots, people that activists that could really help with some of these?
We have people who are trained as permaculturists.
So I think Dee Dee Pursehouse and Cat Buxton would be some of those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And they might be able to refer others.
Okay. Excellent.
And the Apple Core again, maybe.
Excellent. Any other type of resource that you guys can think of that you think would be important in the food sector?
We have Upper Valley Young Farmers Organization. And we also have a listserv. I don't know if anybody else knows about it, but I think it's for Upper Valley farmers.
So they would be a great resource for maybe getting the word out. Do they also do training or like educational programs?
I'm not totally sure what they're doing.
Okay.
I'm pretty
know.
sure Vital Communities has hosted some soil health workshops and has quite a few things on their website.
I would put Bale in there again too, BALE.
Okay. What does BALE do?
So BALE it's an acronym, so all
Oh, that's
capitals.
right.
That's the Building a Local Economy. And they're in South Royalton in the same area as the Vermont Law School, but they do a lot with education around these kinds of things and workshops.
Okay, great. All right. Good.
We didn't
Anybody?
put-
Oh,
We
Go ahead.
didn't put farmers markets on. I don't know.
oh, yeah.
Vermont, I mean,
The other one, the local food.
Hartford, maybe someday we'll have a farmers market, but we might have to, collaborate with some of the local farmers markets to get to that point.
Is there a specific farmers market organization?
Just Norwich Farmers Market. I don't know if we want to list Woodstock and Heartland, but they both have farmers markets as well.
West Hartford did some last year. They started one. They were working out of the parking lot of the library.
Oh, good.
Lebanon has a farmer's market as well.
Yeah,
In Hanover on the New Hampshire side.
Pretty
right,
much everybody except Hartford.
right. There's so many of them. That's probably why we never did.
The Norwich one is probably the bigger one in the area, so they would be a good one to list.
I'm just wondering if, like King Arthur Flower, I'm sure they do some, not pro bono, but philanthropic things, and they have some deep pockets, and I wonder if they might be approachable for some of this sort of thing.
Flour, like cooking flour.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
They do have a grant program.
I was
Excellent.
wondering if libraries could have any connection. I know that in Lebanon, both the libraries have community gardens, and there's lots of books about this stuff.
The libraries could become, and maybe one of them does, I don't know. They could lend tools, for working in the garden.
I think Cedar Circle is actually working on something like that too, the tool lending.
Excellent. Good. Anything else comes to mind? Okay. All right, we can hit the next.
Ted, before we move on to the next one, we've been at this for a bit now.
Should we do some jumping jacks?
Is there a little, like a 2-minute break planned at any point?
Yeah, why don't we, that's an excellent idea. Why don't we do that? We can do a little breather. And I think, let's see, we've only got a few left. So why don't we do like a 5-10 minute break? So we've only got 3 left. So why don't we do that? We could take like a 10-minute break and reconvene at 5 after. Does that work for everybody? We
Okay.
Great,
do some
thank you.
sit-ups or jumping jacks or whatever.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
awesome. See you in a minute. All right. Are you ready to dig back in?
Sure.
All right, I've got green space and trees up. So the different higher level strategies here, increasing tree cover and diversity, achieving a townwide tree canopy forest coverage increase of, and this is really a placeholder right now. We had originally just thrown in there 10 acres. We'll be doing some more calculations to see if we can figure out something that's a good number, that's a stretch goal, but not ridiculous. We usually do percentage, but I think when we're talking townwide here, doing a percentage, because you have a lot of forest space, so that's, it might be easier to do it as an acreage thing. But in any event, increasing tree canopy. 2 is increasing the use of native species in pollinator restoration areas with a conversion of a target of converting 10% of townwide lawn coverage. So this would be anywhere we've got grass we're mowing, seeing if we can get some of that converted over to native species and pollinators. The 3rd is reducing micro heat island effect through townwide impervious surface reduction of 2% by 2030 and 5% by 2040. So that could be like literally getting rid of stuff. It can also be things like green roofs, that sort of thing. And then 4, care for forest and wildland ecosystem health, considering Western and indigenous practices to enhance their resilience to climate change and enhance their capacities to sequester and store carbon. And 5, increase the resilience of urban tree canopy and green spaces to climate change impacts. So increasing resilience, forest ecosystem health, reducing micro heat island, specifically through impervious surface conversion and other strategies like that. Increasing native species coverage, ditching some lawn and getting some native species in there, and increasing tree cover and diversity. So from a high level, any partners out there that you can think of that are doing similar work or might have resources or programs that are already underway that could be compatible?
Isn't there a Hanover Pollinator Society? Boy, I just ran across it. I was going to write it down too.
They have a garden club. I don't know about a
No, it's not.
pollinator
It's
society.
specifically for pollinators, and I can't remember if it's Hanover, but it's fairly local. You might put a local system instead of Hanover, maybe local pollinator society.
Yes.
Actually, I wonder if that goes down more in the pollinator thing, but
Yeah.
So
The most important group is the Town of Hartford Tree Commission.
yeah. Is it the Hartford Tree Commission the same as the Hartford Forest?
No,
Is it
no,
Actually, the Hartford Tree Board.
Tree Board.
board? Okay.
And the problem is they need some really large hunk of outside funding.
So along with the tree board is the tree warden, plays an obvious role, I think. I wait to hear Matt correct me if I'm wrong.
Now, is the tree warden a town employee, or is that a like a volunteer position with the board?
It's a volunteer position.
Okay.
And it's actually Dana Hazen, who's also on the Hartford Conservation Commission.
Dana Hazen.
Hazen.
Thank you.
So when it comes to impervious surfaces in the downtown areas in particular, again, I think the Planning Commission plays a role if there's, if there are discussions around changing zoning to require certain impervious surfaces, I would guess. But what do you think, Bruce?
Why we have some legislative authority, that's about it. I mean, we have rules about how much open space you have to maintain. but we don't have any new rules about, and we have authority on landscaping, existing authority on landscaping.
But if someone were writing new rules, it would be the planning commission would be
Yeah.
involved, right?
Yeah, it has to start with the planning commission.
That should go up into the tree section too. And excuse the pun, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think what is happening around trees is that there's a very prominent perspective that you need to cut and thin to have a healthy forest, as opposed to letting a forest take care of itself. I mean, thousands of years they did without humans. So I'm not sure how to, the rest of the group might not agree with me, but I think there's like room for maybe an educational panel or a debate, I'm not sure which, about how to do, let's see, support development regulations, preserving, I think different people have a different perspective of what it means to preserve.
So I'm gonna throw in here that this might be an important place to have Indigenous voices, because far from the forest tending themselves for thousands of years without humans, actually Indigenous people have been tending the forests for thousands of years.
Sure.
And so I think it's really important that they have a voice in something like this, and how, yeah, anyway.
That's a great point. Is there an Indigenous, is there a group, an entity that's active in the community that's connected to the Indigenous voices, or a local reservation that might have resources that wants to partake in the conversation?
So there are 3 or 4 bands of Abenakis in the area, and actually I'm on the Upper Valley Sierra Upper Valley Sierra Club executive committee, and we're in process of reaching out to them to do some collaborative work. And so, and the Indigenous communities, the local Indigenous communities, are definitely looking for allies. So it certainly is a bridge. There's the Elnu band, there's Nalhegan band, there's the Cowsuck band. So I think there's 4, and so it would be connecting specifically with those tribes.
And can somebody help me with the spelling? I'm sure I got it wrong. Abenaki is
Abenaki, ABANKI.
Okay, like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, great.
There's another committee that's part of the town government. It's called the Design Review Board, I think. And Matt, I'm hoping, or Bruce, maybe you can elaborate on what they do, but I believe they play a role in reviewing designs and then looking at places where landscaping or vegetative cover might play a role. At least that's maybe part of their jurisdiction.
No, not quite. So in White River Junction, we have a design review district. And that district has adopted standards, a set of standards on building, design, windows, streetscape, other issues. And when there's a change in a building or use in the design review district, this board has authority to review that design.
Well, I think we may be talking about different bodies, but or maybe not. There's one where Martha McDaniel was the representative from the Energy Commission, and then there was someone on it looking at landscape, and then there was maybe Denise, whose name I forget now.
Welsh.
I'm sorry?
Welsh.
Right, Denise May Welch, or Welch May. Is that the same board?
Yep.
Okay,
That's the design review district.
Yeah,
So
Just
design
just
review
for-
committee.
yeah. Just for downtown, essentially downtown Wyver Junction.
Okay. Are there similar review districts in some of the other villages, or?
No,
the only one?
if I had my druthers, I'd force one or two on some other places.
Let's start making them up.
You know, I'm not allowed to do that.
Oh, okay. All right, excellent.
Ted, when you say, I think it's on number 3, GT3 or maybe 4, when it says town-wide, no, I guess it's number 4. Nope, maybe it's 3. Anyway, when you say town-wide, are you talking about the urban, like we'll call it downtown area? Or
Yeah.
are we talking, because it's occurred to me these last couple of weeks between our meetings as I'm walking around, doing a lot more walking around, that we've got a fairly small urban area. We have quite a bit of forest, but in between that we have a lot of residential. And I'm watching within the residential areas, people selecting, I don't know how selectively or cosmetically, taking down big trees and, you know, lots of lawn there. And so it occurs to me that that's a really important educational sector. We need big trees. And so I want to make sure that we're not just talking urban and we're not just talking forests. How do we make sure town-wide really means includes the residential areas as well, which has a huge amount of the lawn surface area and a lot of nice big trees that people are just cutting down.
But you cut down, I cut down 10 big trees because my insurance company essentially told me to.
Yeah. So how do we mitigate something like that? How do we find a way around that? Because from a carbon sequestration standpoint, the big trees are the ones that do it. It's not.
Are those areas that are not inside the villages, so in a more rural setting within the town, is that covered by Town of Hartford zoning ordinance? Are there or is there?
We don't touch trees.
Okay. But if the town developed a town-wide tree ordinance, it would apply to all areas, right?
Yeah, probably.
Depending on, unless it was designed not to, you know, but it sounds, so there is jurisdictional opportunity there.
It'd be an interesting thing to study.
Because you could, for instance, some communities have it's pretty common, you put together like a tree ordinance requirement, but it doesn't have to necessarily be on that same property. You can tree bank it. So if for some whatever reason I've got good compelling reason to remove X number of trees, I have to replace Y number. It can either be on my property or I can tree bank it, which is, you know, I pay whatever, $100 per tree or whatever to the town.
But there's no way it replaces that because it takes hundreds of years for the tree to grow back, you know.
Sure.
But I think, you know, one way to do this is to look at our policy of cutting in the town forest. You know, I'm not sure what percentage of trees in town are in the town forest, you know, but I agree. A very high priority should be to keep as many big trees as we can.
I'm going to offer another divergent opinion here, though. One of the compelling needs for some species of birds and other mammals are wide open fields.
Yeah, that is the argument that people give for why we should be cutting and managing forests. But we can't afford to look at the needs of birds when we're faced with a severe climate crisis. You know, there are existing fields, so I'm not sure. you know,
I'm gonna disagree on that one because sustainability means sustainability for everything. And I think the web of creation includes everything. And yes, we have a huge climate crisis from a human impact, but we rely on biodiversity. And without that biodiversity, we don't have much of a chance. And so we need to keep that perspective too.
I just feel like there's plenty of open area with all the
As
residents.
long as, I mean, open area, is it truly native field species or is open area lawn? And so if we
Right.
can convert lawns to more
Native
viable
species,
biodiverse ecosystems, then yeah, that's.
Yeah. So that's a good transition. Just thinking about which our goal 2, which is trying to explore that, increasing use of native species or pollinator restoration areas. Let's stop some lawn, improve that. Are there potential partners there? Anybody doing programs? Folks that are doing installations? Anything like that that comes to mind?
I am, but I'm doing it on one person level here.
Okay.
And I'm having to read all about it and find as many, local sources as I can. So I would say I don't think so, because I'd love to have somebody, a go-to person or a go-to organization.
I mean, it's pretty annoying to go to the local nurseries. And it's very difficult to buy native bushes, fruit trees, plants, anything.
Although EC Brown's has a great selection up in Bedford.
I use EC Brown,
Yeah.
and I talked to EC Brown, and they're not as helpful as I'd like them to be, because I just want to buy it.
Right. Oh, it's interesting because when I just bought a bunch this spring, all labeled as native, which I knew what I was looking for because of the research I'd done, and they had a lot of them in stock.
I'll have to go visit again.
A couple thoughts on this topic. First of all, the Extension Service, as part of the Master Gardener Program, publishes a handy little catalog on native plants. And they're also a player in this, or a potential partner in this space, as is our friends over at HACTC. They have a natural resources program. So that, again, that's the vocational school associated with the high school. The natural resources program, I don't know exactly what their focus is, but there's always the potential of suggesting changes in their focus if it doesn't well align with what's in front of us here. And then some of the names that we put on earlier spreadsheets, like the Upper Valley Apple Corps, they're about creating, edible landscapes. And I think that was someone spoke about resilient Hartford projects in the same vein, doing that in parks, in Clifford Park. But they're people that are on that committee are also resources.
Yeah, there seems to be, to me, a good overlap here of local food, community gardens, and green space.
Yeah.
And Leanne, it looks like you were able to find some of the pollinator information. She put it in the chat, which was really helpful. Thank you, Leanne, for doing
Yeah,
that.
I also have a hard time cutting in with you guys. Sorry. I was just looking up Billings Farm because I thought maybe they have a page on bees and pollinators, and I thought maybe they were doing stuff at their farm. And also Vins might be.
I don't know if Fins is so much doing pollinator stuff.
That would fall with more with Vermont Center for Eco Studies, VCE,
Yes, yeah.
in Norwich, which split with VINS. That's where they came from.
Oh. Yeah, I was just on a webinar a few weeks ago and I couldn't remember exactly who did it, but
And you had also listed the Upper Valley Land Trust.
Yeah, it looked like they're doing some stuff with forests.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Who are the biggest, from a public entity perspective, who are the biggest landowners? Public agencies, taxable districts, school district, anybody else that has a lot of land that they control that might be a partner or need to be a partner?
The Conservation Commission has a list because they've been approaching some of the larger ones to, explain how conservation itself works and how it might benefit, land to have some of it conserved. And, so they've got a list of who some of the larger ones are.
Okay. And that's Hartford Conservation Commission, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
Mary,
excellent.
do you think that Linking Lands is a potential partner in this area as well?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Eric?
The Linking Lands Alliance.
I'm not familiar with them. They sound very interesting.
Excellent. All right. Anything else that comes to mind? Otherwise, I think we need to go to the next category. All righty. Next category is health and safety. Let me just reset the timer. Okay. So the sector strategic goals here are educate, engage, and empower the public on health safety risks of climate change. Assist the town's vulnerable populations in preparing for and mitigating climate change impacts from extreme heat, flooding, storm, vector-borne disease. Maintain updated plans to address climate risks and impacts. So it's things like making sure that our hazard mitigation plan is updated and maintained related to climate science, et cetera, as well as other potential plans. And then 4, strengthen community response capacity and support networks, which in particular is very important. Whatever we can do to increase connectivity so that vulnerable populations are less vulnerable. Seniors or others that might need good support networks when there's an extreme event going on of some sort. Maybe we can start there. Are there any organizations that are really connected in the community that really have strong networks with vulnerable population groups or seniors or low income folks or people of color, immigrants, things like that?
The senior center.
Excellent. Yeah.
I believe I heard Meals on Wheels is actually giving information on these kinds of vulnerabilities, climate vulnerabilities.
Great. That's awesome. Good for them.
Resilient Hartford has done a workshop with seniors on climate and heat and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that was actually working with Antioch University out of Keene, New Hampshire. There was a professor who took that project on. Upper Valley Strong is another organization. They formed after the Irene flood and helped a lot of people who were their properties were badly damaged. So they're still around and they're ready to serve if there are other major events.
I was part of a response team that was functioning during the pandemic, and I don't know if we actually had a name.
So the Haven is probably a player here as well. And I think, you know, one of the main players also is the town's public safety, Department of Public Safety.
And Listen again has the meal site, so they reach a lot of people.
Excellent.
So some of you met Alice Eli in earlier workshops and stuff, and she represented the Upper Valley Public Health Council, which I don't know much about. Does anyone know that organization?
Only from their website.
I don't know.
Silent Warriors works with the homeless community.
Right. And we
Excellent.
do have folks connecting with immigrants. I can't look on my phone to find her last name, but it's, oh, now I'm forgetting her first name too.
Look, I hate when that happens.
It's called getting old.
Well, it gets bad when you forget your own name right after that. Then you just tap out.
I'll just look and find her name.
Thank you.
Okay, Asma. Her first name is Asma, A-S-M-A, but it'll take me more to find her last name.
Alhuni,
Uh-huh, yep.
Al Hooney?
or is it Elhuni? I can't remember. It's an E or an A.
A-L, I think.
Like that?
It's this E-L-H-U-N-I.
Great.
Is it Esme? Yes.
Yeah, Asma. Yeah.
Esma, sorry, E-S-M-A.
Okay.
No, A-S.
Oh, it is A-S, okay.
Okay. Excellent. How about I think all those are still, the network sorts of folks are strong contenders for, you know, helping connect with vulnerable populations too, I suspect. So those probably relate to each other. How about education partners, you know, people that are really doing good outreach campaigns, public communication things, education in general that might relate to climate health and safety considerations?
Vermont Strong and Resilient Hartford.
I would include Vital Communities as well. They have the is it the Climate Leadership Academy?
Right.
And Bale would go in here again too.
The Upper Valley Adaptation Work Group
Yeah.
is about building climate resilient communities in the Upper Valley.
Are they, as a work group, are they like a subgroup of like a university or something? Or
I think they were like part of Vital Communities, but they broke off into their own group.
okay.
They do education. They have workshops.
Okay, great.
How about the Monterey Museum for education wise?
Yeah.
What's the name of the museum?
Montshire?
Montshire, like Mont of Vermont and Shire of New Hampshire.
Oh, nice. I like it. Excellent. Where are they? Are they in Hartford or?
No, next town over.
Norwich, Hartford.
Norwich.
Ted, this is a place where probably the Upper Valley Sierra Club group would also be interested in collaborating.
How about sustainable Woodstock?
Yeah, I was thinking of them too.
I think they're one of those groups that maybe falls into the overarching, the list of overarching partners.
What do they do that would be overarching?
Well, I think they play in all of the areas that we're talking about here. They, you know, their Woodstock's answer to sort of our Energy Commission and our Resilient Hartford and our Conservation Commission all rolled into one, I guess.
And they do some neat programs.
Since they hired staff, they've been doing a lot of really amazing work.
There's a private business in Lebanon, and I can't remember the name. And Matt might remember that Resilient Hartford did a tour there. They have parking lots.
Hypertherm.
Hypertherm, yeah. Because of all the things that they've done to become resilient, I think they could become an educational source for other businesses.
They play a lead role in the adaptation work group as well, I believe.
There must be some Dartmouth professors that know something about the climate. But
Yes, and some of them are running the Leadership Academy.
oh.
All right, excellent. Any other resources or partners?
Well, with funding, maybe community college could offer training to people to become climate resilient experts that might get paid to working community to help people be prepared. And I don't know.
Yeah. School district also, they could certainly, might be able to play a role too. Okay, good.
Healthy soils, yeah, Vermont Healthy Soils.
What does what's Vermont Healthy Soils Coalition do?
Well, I've only attended their webinar series last year, so I don't know what else they do. But also, like at the bottom of that page, with deep gratitude to our sponsors, it's like every organization we've been talking about.
Okay. So they're connected.
Yes.
Yeah,
At least. Okay.
they do educational webinars, like she said she attended. And I think they're an advocacy group too. So they might be working on legislation. Leanne, do you get that sense? Do you get their emails or?
No, I don't.
I think that's.
So with a name like Healthy Soils, are they also a green space partner as well, or is that more euphemistic?
Probably.
Yeah.
They're basically Cat Buxton and Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's just the name of their organization.
Okay.
Coalition, I guess. It might be.
Okay. Excellent.
Oh, they have 2021 webinars I didn't know about.
All right. Anything else? Anyone else that you think would be a key or an important partner? Otherwise, we can move on to economy as the last one.
We should have some kind of health related people. So maybe the hospital.
Yeah, that's a great point. What's the name of the local hospital?
Are you talking about Dartmouth Hitchcock or something else?
Yeah,
Whatever you guys would say is the local hospital.
Dartmouth Hitchcock. That's in Lebanon.
But someone else said that there was a health group. One of their members was part of our group for a while. What group was that?
So that was the Upper Valley Public Health Council, and I don't know exactly what they do. I just know that their name suggests they might be related to this.
Are they, do you know if they're nonprofit or are they a government entity?
I don't know.
Okay. Is there,
but
in many states that like the county will have like a public health agency that's responsible for, connecting state level public health at local level? Is there an analogous, is that them? Or is there like a town public health department or anything like that?
there is, so the state has a network of public health officers. So that's actually a good point as well. So the town of Hartford's public health officer should be listed as a partner here, and he is he's an employee of the state, so the state pays him to basically be the health officer for the town.
All the nurses in the school department would be a really good resource here.
Excellent. All right, good. All righty, we will hit the last one then. Let's see. Close that out so I don't ruin it. Okay. So for climate economy, we have, I think it's 3 strategic goals. One is to capture local economic potential of climate action. So what can we do for, economic development opportunities, creating new businesses, that sort of thing. The action that we're talking about elsewhere means potentially work. How can we capture that? 2, increase workforce development and retention for the climate economy. So training folks for renewable energy and energy efficiency and those sorts of things. 3, build marketplace climate resilience. So helping our local businesses prepare for climate impacts, think through their supply chains. What can they do to become more resilient themselves, to become able to weather the storm, so to speak. And then the 4th is to establish sustainable financing for the town's climate action implementation. So, different strategies related to either taking funds that already exist and how do we filter them in, or how do we reasonably create funds that can support these actions and strategies moving forward. So, economic potential and workforce development, I'm guessing, the educational sources that have already been talked about are probably shown up here, right? I'm going to forget the acronyms.
Right. HACTC and VTC, and Efficiency Vermont can be a big player in this as well.
Mm-hmm. I think we should put unions. We should see how they might want to work on this.
Is there a local like business development, community business development kind of entity that focuses on?
Chamber of Commerce.
No, it was up there on the first one. I'll look on your first thing. Right there, GMEDC.
What does that stand for? Green Mountain?
Yeah, Green Mountain Economic Development Corporation.
Oh, good point, Bruce. We did our homework, or we did some of this work already.
Yeah.
Well, we should work with the solar companies.
Oops.
Guess you read my mind.
I don't know if we have a local group that works on wind, but we might find a successful wind project somewhere to use as a resource. I don't know how to direct that statement where we would go. I know there's some big wind projects that are under protest of the locals, so that might not be the ones to tap. So I don't know.
Two Rivers says that there's very little opportunity in this town for wind.
Yeah, even on Hurricane Mountain.
Yeah.
Commercially, zero.
Mhm.
Wow. Sorry, then we maybe just take that out.
Well, that's at the commercial scale, again.
Yeah, I mean,
That doesn't mean smaller wind can't happen.
yeah, there could be small scale stuff. We'll list them. The idea of renewable energy companies, and that might evolve over time too. What's available.
Right.
Do we have no option for hydro also?
There's still potential, I think, for small scale hydro, but anything larger has been tapped out or would be a regulatory Sisyphean effort.
Revision is a solar company. I was just thinking, they might not get everybody fully trained and actually do some of the training themselves.
Yeah.
All three of them say they'll do it.
We'll be generic and say local.
I mean, everybody's desperate for workers right now. Desperate. I'm 71. I think I could get a full-time job working for some of these guys.
Can you fix the typo for solar? I'm not sure we'll remember what that is later.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You bet.
Yeah, when we were working on this, Bruce, you mentioned an organization that Matt Dunn founded or is involved in terms of I don't know whether they do venture capital or they're like an incubator type of organization for startups related to maybe newer technologies. Do you remember that?
Yeah, they did a presentation at Two Rivers. It's very impressive.
Do you remember their name?
I'm going to give it to you in a second.
Okay.
And Eric, were you thinking of them in terms of like training, communication, education kind of content?
No, actually, where you were, we may have jotted their name down under the financing part.
Yeah, it's like Center for Rural, Center for Rural Innovation, Innovations.
Okay. So they might be a partner to explore financing strategies, that sort of thing?
Maybe, or to explore, or to be a facilitator or convener to get businesses going, maybe.
Okay.
They want to go in and organize communities. Yeah, Center on Rural Innovation, Digital Economies in Rural Areas.
Center on Rural Economies?
Rural Innovation.
On rural innovation, okay.
They want to do digital economies in rural areas. So they try to go into a community and map out what resources the community has and show how they could develop and engage digital businesses both locally and nationally.
Okay, good.
They try to be really holistic. So they look at all parts of the puzzle, starting with housing you know, and workshop space and collaborations. And he's done extensive work in the Upper Valley.
Okay. Anyone else that you think might be an important potential partner resource in the climate economy sections, any of these?
I wonder if the, is it the Vermont Council for Rural Development, which is, well, I'm not sure if they're associated with the state or not, but it sounds like they do similar work to the organization that we were just talking about.
Yeah, my belief is they try to network everybody.
Are you meaning network like computer networks, or like we want resources networked together to share abilities kind of thing?
They try to connect people and show how much they have in common so they can do bigger things.
Okay.
They also have a climate economy model communities program, which is designed to help communities build and implement priority actions that increase economic vitality, affordability, and resilience in a time of climate change. So,
Climate economies model, is that what you said?
yes, the climate economies climate economy model communities program, or CEMCP.
And I think
Another awesome acronym.
Yes.
I think they said, you guys said that the store in Canaan is, Kim's store is Revision. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Revision Energy, Kim Quirk.
Yeah, so we've got that under local solar companies, right? Or do you think that that's an explicitly different resource that should be called out?
No, they're one of the active solar companies in town.
Okay. So we got them.
Is Grow Solar still existing in town?
I think so.
I think so.
Because they used to be the largest manufacturer of solar parts on the East, or at least the Northeast. But there's so many other solar companies now. They were one of the first here. So
They have a nice website.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, we're at the 5-minute mark. So just, are there any other resources that we definitely need to list? I'll give a second for that, just to make sure. And if not, so thanks for your flexibility in doing this a different way. This actually worked pretty darn well. We will in the next iteration, we'll take all this and we'll try to organize it a little bit coming out of here. But this is very helpful.
Good.
So as far as I kind of started off talking about our next steps. I'll just sort of reiterate that. So where we're going from here is to coalesce all of this into a draft plan, and it'll have the matrix, which will be all the detailed actions with the information that we were just talking about tonight also. But that information will be, other than the potential partners that we may not include in the actual plan, the static document that people might print out and read. But the actions themselves will certainly find themselves directly into the plan. So we're going to be creating the plan here, and we are targeting. We had originally had our sort of review meeting May 12th. We are still going to target trying to hit that. However, we have some options. We can keep that date. We may not have the draft available much in prior to that meeting. Maybe possibly the night before kind of a thing, but we could still meet on the 12th and use that time where we could do a high level overview. And we could do a little breakout time if you wanted to just kind of review. It'd be everybody's initial review to just kind of look through it. And then, of course, there will be review time after that so that you guys can plug in comments. We'll do a shared PDF file that people can paste in notes, that sort of thing. The matrix itself will be a spreadsheet, much like we're familiar with, only they'll all live in one spot. So we'll see all of the actions together. That we can also provide an area where everybody can just write review comments directly in the form. So we will have review time frame after that. So one option is we keep the 12th, and that would be the unveiling of the draft, or we could push back the 12th a little bit and give you guys an opportunity to review the plan prior to us getting together. And I guess I'll just offer it up there to see, for those of us that are here tonight, if you have a preference one way or the other, both would work from our perspective, but it's really kind of about if you guys have a preference, if you'd like to see this stuff in advance to an unveiling meeting.
It's always helpful to me to see something ahead of time. I don't know if it's critical, but it's helpful.
Yeah. Well, we could, and just usually we do that. Just we had a little bit of a schedule skid here, and so I think to do that we'd want to push back our meeting like a week or so. So that would be into the next week. We could set out a doodle poll to the team and target a couple times there and see if how availability is. Does that seem like a pretty good direction? See if we can nudge back that meeting a week or so, and we'll send out a doodle poll, pick a good time.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that. And that's it. You there's no homework. You guys have done an amazing job all the way through, so thank you very much for that. Now all the homework's entirely on our side, so. Thank you guys very much for your time tonight. I appreciate it. This was very helpful to me for certain.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night. Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ted. Good night.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.